Dinosaurs are some of the largest animals that have ever existed on Earth. And while they're obviously extinct, it's always fun to think about how they would fare in scenarios like this one. And today we're going to be asking the question, can dinosaurs outrun your car? As it turns out, the answer is definitely sometimes, but not always. So let's jump into it with our first contestant, the mighty Tyrannosaurus Rex. First off, you should know that paleontologists estimate that the T-Rex was around 40 to 45 feet long, which is between 12 and 14 meters long, and it weighed roughly 880 pounds, which is around 400 kilograms. Now, paleontologists believe that the T-Rex could run at speeds of up to 17 miles per hour, which is around 27 kilometers per hour. However, they don't think that it could sustain that speed for very long. It's more likely that the T-Rex could run at around 9 miles per hour, which is around 15 kilometers per hour, for around 20 minutes before it would need to take a break to catch its breath. But if a T-Rex were to charge at your car at full speed, would you be able to outrun it? Well, yes, you would, because most cars can go way faster than 9 miles per hour. In fact, even if the T-Rex were to double its top speed and run at around 34 miles per hour, which is around 55 kilometers per hour, you'd still be able to outrun it in most cars. For example, the average car can go between 60 and 65 miles per hour, which means that you'd have no problem leaving the T-Rex in the dust. But what if we put a sportier car up against the T-Rex? Let's see if the Lamborghini Aventador could outrun this dino. The Lamborghini Aventador can go from 0 to 60 miles per hour in just 2.9 seconds. That's pretty impressive. But the T-Rex might be able to keep up with this car, at least for a little bit. That's because the T-Rex has a top speed of around 34 miles per hour, which means that it could probably match the Lamborghini's speed for a few seconds, maybe even a minute or two. But eventually the Lamborghini would pull away from the T-Rex and leave it in the dust. After all, the T-Rex isn't built for speed. Its legs are short and sturdy, and its body is long and heavy, which makes it more of a power walker than a speed demon. Plus, it needs to breathe, and running that fast will eventually catch up with it. The Lamborghini doesn't have these limitations, though. It's designed to go fast, and it won't get tired or need to take a break, so there's really no contest here. The Lamborghini would easily outrun the T-Rex. Okay? So now let's move on to our next contestant, the Brachiosaurus. This guy was one of the largest animals that ever lived. It stood 40 feet tall, which is 12 meters tall, and was 80 feet long, which is 24 meters long. That's taller than a 3-story building and longer than 2 buses parked end to end. And this dinosaur weighed in at a whopping 70 tons, which is around 63,500 kilograms. Just the tail of this dinosaur weighed more than an elephant. The Brachiosaurus was a herbivore, so it didn't need to be very fast. In fact, researchers believe that it could only run at speeds of up to 3 miles per hour, which is around 5 kilometers per hour. That's slower than most people walk, so there's no way that a Brachiosaurus could outrun your car. Even if your car was going as slow as 2 miles per hour, which is around 3 kilometers per hour, the Brachiosaurus would still be almost twice as slow. So now, let's move on to our next contestant, the Velociraptor. This dinosaur was much smaller than the previous two, but it was much faster. In fact, the Velociraptor was only about 6 feet long, which is 1.8 meters long, and weighed only 330 pounds, which is around 150 kilograms. It was about the size of a large dog, and it was built for speed. Its legs were long and thin, and its body was light and agile. This allowed the Velociraptor to run at speeds of up to 40 miles per hour, which is around 64 kilometers per hour. However, it couldn't sustain that speed for very long. More realistically, the Velociraptors could probably run at around 25 miles per hour, which is around 40 kilometers per hour, for around 10 minutes before it needed to take a break. So could a Velociraptor outrun your car? Well, it depends on the car. If you're driving a slow car, then the Velociraptor will beat you. For example, if you're driving a smart Fort Woo, which goes from 0 to 60 miles per hour in 10.6 seconds, then the Velociraptor will beat you. However, if you're driving a more typical car, such as a Honda Civic, which goes from 0 to 60 miles per hour in 5.7 seconds, then you'll outrun the Velociraptor. And if you're driving a really fast car, such as a Bugatti Chiron, which can go from 0 to 60 miles per hour in just 2.4 seconds, then you'll leave the Velociraptor in the dust. So the answer to this question really depends on what kind of car you're driving. So far, it seems like the bigger the dinosaur, the slower it is, and the smaller the dinosaur, the faster it is. So let's see if that trend continues with our next contestant, the Stegosaurus. The Stegosaurus was another herbivore, and it was also pretty big. It was around 30 feet long, which is 9 meters long, and weighed around 4 tons, which is around 3,600 kilograms. That's about the size of a small bus. Despite its size, the Stegosaurus was actually pretty nimble, and it could run at speeds of up to 30 miles per hour, which is around 48 kilometers per hour. That's pretty fast, but it's still slower than most cars. In fact, even the slowest cars on the road today can go faster than the Stegosaurus. So there's no way that this dinosaur could outrun your car. Okay, so now let's move on to our final contestant, the Ankylosaurus. This dinosaur was a true tank. It was covered in armor and had a club tail that it used to smash its enemies. It was also pretty big, although not as big as some of the other dinosaurs we've seen today. It was around 26 feet long, which is 8 meters long, and weighed around 6 tons, which is around 5,400 kilograms. That's about the size of a small truck. Despite its size, the Ankylosaurus was actually pretty fast. It could run at speeds of up to 30 miles per hour, which is around 48 kilometers per hour. So it's a tie with the Stegosaurus. But this still isn't fast enough to outrun most cars. In fact, even the slowest cars on the road today can go faster than the Ankylosaurus. So there's no way that this dinosaur could outrun your car. So there you have it. Out of the 5 dinosaurs we've seen today, only the T-Rex and the Velociraptors could possibly outrun your car, but only under certain circumstances. The rest of the dinosaurs were simply too slow. So what do you think? Was this video helpful? Let us know in the comments below. And don't forget to subscribe for more videos like this one.